But, I did what I had to do.
How did you get involved with Yolanda's organization, and how did you decide you needed this service, and what has it done for you that you wouldn't have had otherwise?
Well, I knew what she was doing. And just like you just said, you expected to meet somebody that was, you know, um, socioeconomically, disadvantaged and things like that. But I didn't feel like I was not susceptible to not knowing certain things. So I asked her, if I could be one of her clients, if she would make sure that I was doing certain things, that make sure that, we could have open dialogue about things, I mean, she may have noticed something with another client and it's not to, discuss anybody else's business, but, to say, okay, you may want to be aware of A, B, C, D, or E, you may want to make sure that you're doing this, so, and as a friend, it just really it worked out. It's it's dialogue. It's a resource. You talk about accountability, and you talk about not not getting a break from being poor. You talk about not having a break from whatever your problems are. You're right. You don't. You wake up, you go to sleep. They are still there. But in my opinion, a lot of these women in our community, they don't have credible, educated, articulate resources. They don't have anybody to lean on. So they don't do a lot of things. And it's not just about somebody coming in that can take your blood pressure, or somebody that can say, okay, this is the type of nutrition that, you need to ensure that you're having. It's like she said, there's something going on. I know there's something wrong. What is it? And okay, well, don't sweat the small stuff. Let me refer you to this agency. Let me help you do A, B, C, D, and E. Because sometimes what's small to me could be just completely overwhelming to the next person, you know. And again, now you're stressed. Now you're making bad life choices. There's nobody there to say, let's not do it this way. Let's try this. You've got babies raising babies, and I hate to say that, because I had a young mother. My mother was 16 years old when she got pregnant with me. She was 17 when she got pregnant with my sister. But she had my grandmother. She was married. My father married her. So she had both, mothers, grandparents. We had big families. She continued to go to school. She freaked out when I told her that he'd be breastfeeding for 6 months. And she's like, just breast milk? That's crazy. We didn't, well, you couldn't breastfeed. You had to be back in school in 2 weeks because you were about to graduate. So being in even college, she went to Christian Brothers, but being in college, we were there when she graduated. But she had the community in her family. So that just goes back to what I was saying, babies raising babies. But when you've got a baby and her mother's 10, 15 years older than her, but she didn't have, good community, she didn't have good resources or people that she can lean on, then it's a cycle. And so you need people like Yolanda to be able to go into the home, to just give them information, and to be attuned and be able to identify what issues they may be going through, and being able to turn them towards somebody else that's going to be able to help, so that they can have healthy pregnancies, so that they can be excited about their pregnancies. Because that's one of the things that I know I was really, really a stickler for throughout his birth, throughout my pregnancy, and that was my emotions. And I read, in that book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, the Bible, that everything that I feel, every chemical, that's released when I'm angry or whatever, it passes over to him. He feels that, he knows that. And I remember crying one time, and I was just praying, like, oh my God, please let this stop. Help me. Let me meditate. Let me do whatever, because I don't want him to come out angry, hostile, uptight, feeling it, any of those things. And these young girls, and some older women, they don't know that. They don't know that. So they go through life and they wake up and they're fighting, with boyfriends or spouses or, bosses or anything like that. And they don't know what to do. And now, you've got a baby that's born below birth weight, or you've got a baby that's born that's not getting what that baby needs. And here we go. Now baby doesn't reach 1 year old. So, her job is very important, and just people that are, again, more medically inclined to do certain things as well. I just think that is a part of the solution.
Well, what I didn't want to do is, I think a lot of times when people research infant mortality, they display the face of poverty. But, knowledge, people that lack knowledge go across economic levels. Even though you may be well versed in geography, you may not be well versed in infant mortality.
Right.
So from, Christy and I, we were already friends, but, we were having cocktails one day. And Christy said that her husband was trying to get pregnant. And I said, you can't drink. And that's when our conversation began, even though she knew that I was in the community talking about infant mortality. Our conversation started about infant mortality really was when I told her, by the time you find out you're pregnant, you already be 4 to 6 weeks. And are you taking prenatal vitamins already? Then we went into this discussion because a lot of women, even if it's a leisurely cup of wine or they may drink a beer a day, you won't find out you're pregnant until you're 4 to 6 weeks already. Fetal alcohol syndrome. Just from those 6 weeks of drinking during pregnancy when you didn't know. If you are already taking a multivitamin that contains folic acid, when you become pregnant, even during the time that you don't know, you're already protected. So that's how our conversation began. And even though she's well versed, has college degrees, she wasn't well versed in infant mortality.
I wasn't. And somebody gave me, I was meeting with a friend for lunch, and she knew that I was trying to get pregnant. And no, she knew I was pregnant. I was already pregnant, but I just found out that I was pregnant. And she basically gave me this list, a pregnancy diet. And she's an attorney, she gave me a list, a pregnancy diet, and we talked about drinking. And I said, man, I think that's going to be the hardest part for me. It's not being able to drink, even though I hadn't been drinking for a couple of months because of the diet that I was doing. And she listed dark beers. Dark beers are permissible. She listed that, it's okay for you to have a glass of wine, every day or every other day, after you reach a certain point in your pregnancy. And don't get me wrong, I know that women do, and women have healthy babies. To each its own, But for the most part, I didn't want to have a drop of alcohol in my system. Summertime, I was literally fiending for a beer because I like beer in the summer. So I went to the store and I bought O'Doul's. I said, I'm going to get the beer taste, but non-alcoholic. I felt great. And I just happened to be sitting there on the deck and looked at the ingredients, and it said 0.5% alcohol by volume. I spit that out. I was so upset and mad, and I felt like this is false advertisement, yada, yada, yada. So even the smallest amounts, just trying to make sure that I was doing everything okay. What's going to happen is going to happen. What is, it is. But at the same time, I know that there are certain things that we can do to ensure that we're doing our part. And that was my whole point. I wanted to do my part. He could come out with 8 fingers and 2 toes, but did I do my part?
Right. But what I just wanted to say about programs like this in the community, the reason why I chose to do this, because I do it through AmeriCorps. And AmeriCorps is a service program where you commit to serve your community for a year. And when I chose to do it quarterly, I really looked at the fact that I did an internship with them before I even started the home visitation. So I kind of had like an inner understanding of the workings of how it worked. And I was intrigued. So I was like, okay, I want to do this. So I really thought about Port Leaf, an agency. They have been in existence over 100 years. So they have a rapport with the community. And I think that we need agencies like this that especially have a rapport with the community, because when people in the community are used to these agencies, when you come and say, I have a new program, you know, they're more acceptable to it. They're more prone to listen, and especially with them incorporating AmeriCorps into it, I get a chance to talk to people in my community that see me on a regular basis. It's not the lady from this agency that is from across town, or this man from this agency that's from across town. It's someone from your community that's coming to talk to you, and you know, I'll listen to someone that I'm close to quicker than I will someone that I feel is coming into my home to talk down to me, or I may feel like they're talking down to me when they're really just giving me information. So it's about creating a comfort level. That agencies like Port Leaf, you have the Blues Project, you just have all these different agencies that are trying to come in and help, and we need more money appropriated so that we can, you know, continue programs like this, because like she said, it's about dialogue. I have clients, you know, we have technology now. I have clients that'll text me at 11, 12 o'clock, midnight, asking me questions, or, you know, I've had a client to call me at 8 o'clock at night because the baby wouldn't stop crying. Without a program like this, that could have been a disaster. You know, that could have been a story on the local news. I think that the elected officials sometimes become a little detached from the people that they're serving. That I think that it's important that they try to get back in the community to actually assess what the needs and the problems of the communities are, because sometimes they become a little bit too detached and they depend on agency leaders to tell them what the needs are, when it's something that they need to get out and talk to the people about what they need. Because even though sometimes people need something, they may tell you some of what they need, but if they feel like you can't help them, they're not going to tell you everything, because they feel like you can't help me anyway. So why am I telling you my business?
Well, but you know what? In situations like this, again, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that people, it's not that they're necessarily detached, but until it hits home,
That too.
you know, people just they don't have a passion for it.
Are we making a dent? Are we making progress? Or are we just getting started?
I honestly think that we are making progress. What I think that a lot of people are looking for, they're looking for immediate numbers. I think that the things that our program does, like Cornerstone, what we do is we teach, we provide them with information, and a lot of people act on it. But I think that the result of what we're teaching will be shown generations from now, because our goal is to provide them with the information and to teach them. And when their children have children, for those mothers to teach their children what they learned back in 2009, 2010, when their grandchildren are born, and it continues throughout generations. I don't think that all the benefits will be seen right now. With the documentary that we did with Tanya Lewis-Lee. We went to a charter school here, and it's called Preconception Peer Education, but we teach just about all the things that we teach at Port Leaf with our Cornerstone program, about, the things that you do to your body now can affect you when you begin to have children. The importance of not drinking, the importance of not smoking, not having risky relationships, making sure you have safe sex. Even though we may not see the effects of it now, when those 8th and 9th graders begin to think about having families, they remember what Miss Yolanda told me about having unprotected sex, or I remember what she told me about the importance of making sure I take my Flintstone vitamins every day. I need to get some grown people vitamins now. You know, they remember those things. So I think that it's one of those things that we won't be able to measure it right now, but I think that as time progresses, as we begin to continue to engage the community, we'll see those numbers decrease. But I just don't see it happening like, you know, hopefully within the next 10, 15 years, we can measure those numbers decreasing. But just a one year, 2 year, 3 year forecast, I don't see us seeing like the real results of it piling up that quick. I don't see that happening. But I don't see it's a lost cause. I think that as long as people think, they're willing to learn, and especially I think that this infant mortality word that we use, we need an everyday word. Because when you tell people, you know, have you had infant mortality? No. Well, do you know anyone, or have you lost a child before they turn the age of 1? Yeah, it has happened to them, but they don't know there was infant mortality. So when you have all these news reports that say infant mortality is on the rise and it's affecting the African American community, they look at it like, it's not for me. And they change the channel because no one is defining the word.
Or if they hear the word, you explained it a lot better. You explained that infant mortality is any death before a child reaches the age of 1. So when you say infant mortality initially, people automatically assume that something bad has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the baby was shaken to death, or whether the baby was accidentally given drugs, or, you know, abused, or abandoned, or something like that. They're not looking at SIDS. And one of the things that my sister had said to me in the hospital, she was, our pastor had just done a funeral, and he was saying that it was the saddest funeral he'd ever done. The baby was 4 months old, and what happened was the mom was in the bed sleeping, had the baby, and she had accidentally rolled over on the baby and didn't realize it, and the baby stopped breathing, and the baby died. You know, and I can only imagine what she's going through emotionally, you know, as a mother, to think that that was preventable, you know, or whatever. But again, it just goes back to the whole definition and how it sounds. You know, it sounds a lot worse than it really is, or people aren't including, you know, infant mortality, including but not limited to, you know.
And no one wants to associate themselves with anything bad. But I think that, especially in Memphis, we have a lot of people that are not well educated. And, you know, we have to do more to define this word, you know, provide everyday examples. Just like I was saying with the video, you know, with the documentaries. It's important that we get these videos out to people in the community so they can see that their neighbor, you know, my neighbor lost a baby, so that was infant mortality, or my sister, or, you know,
or
my baby
services. When they go to receive services, maybe like it's a part of it, you know, before you can receive some assistance with such and such and such and such, you have to watch this documentary and you have to sign off on it, you know.
Because these documentaries, these are people in their community.
Right.
That somebody knows somebody, so it may be, you know, that's such and such cousin, or that's such and such auntie, but there's like a connection. And people are saying, you know, this can't happen to me because it happened to someone I know. And it's like, make it personal for people. Importantly, we do these boxes that they pass out to the people in the hospital. Well, we include the videos about shaken death syndrome, but why not include the documentaries that are happening now to let people know this is a problem in your community, and these are some of the things that you can do to, you know, decrease infant mortality rates.